Hey everyone, welcome back to Kumo's Unfiltered Convos podcast. This is a new episode again, and it's going to be a really dope ass episode. So to get started, we actually have an amazing couple slash business owner here. So we're going to be talking about Black farmers, y'all. Like in Phoenix, we have never had that in Arizona. So we have the Southwest Black ranchers. On our podcast today, it's Rachel and James. Welcome to Kumo's Unfiltered Convos podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Of course. So just to give you all a little insight on who the Black ranchers farmers are, they're the very first Southwest Black ranchers farmers. So there's never ever been a Black ranchers farmers with protein focusing on meat products as well, correct?
Right. Well, when we were looking, we couldn't find any, so that's why we started it. And then since then, it's grown and there's a lot more, so we're happy about that. Not a lot more, but we're trying to help people get into it. So it's been really a good process.
And you actually started this in the pandemic, correct? In 2020?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and you both have a background in fitness, so that's very interesting to see how those two worlds collided. And I'm really interested to just hear more about your journey and how even the process came to be of the Southwest Black Ranchers. So can you first, to get started, how are you both doing? I know we're entering into 2 years of this pandemic. And I'm really interested to know how you've been doing, taking care of yourself as well as your business. So yeah, go ahead and just let us know.
Thank you so much. That's a good question. It's a good question because it's like we really try not to go negative, and all the things that we do, we really try to keep it positive, because there's so many negative aspects to life just in general, so we really we try to show what we're doing and show the positives and not vent about the negative all the time. But it's like a year is big. We're coming up on a year now, and it's like the struggle is definitely real. So It's like we're here, we're chugging along, and it's going well, and it's growing and getting better than ever. But it's like I think we all feel that the time and everything that changes. We've all grown a lot, especially the kids.
Yeah, I would say, we made so many changes in our life at the same time that the pandemic hit. And because of where we are now, we have a lot of separation. So we don't necessarily feel everything everybody else feels where we are. So, we kind of do our own thing. We focus on building the ranch, food security, and kind of growing this. And at the same time, it's like we only see people when we go get supplies or when we go do things. We don't just see people like that, because we're in the middle of the desert. So it's definitely, been, I guess, easier for us in a sense, while it's hard because of all the other changes. But we have a lot of things to keep our focus on other things outside of just the pandemic.
Yeah.
Wow. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you even decided to take your whole family, because you do have kids as well, and you're coming from a background of fitness. So before the pandemic, you probably were at the gym or, practicing that fitness lifestyle. So what was that like, taking your whole family to literally on a desert? Like it's not like the city, Phoenix.
Right.
So I'm really interested to know what that was like with your family.
Well, like a big thing is when the pandemic hit, they took the gym from us. So you kind of start losing things that you value. Everybody values different things, but closing the gym was like taking everything from me. You know what I mean? Because that's where I go. That's where I spend all my free time. And that's what I do. So by that being taken, then you go in the grocery store and you don't even have the proper foods available because of shortages in the food supply chain. It's kind of like, oh, how do you avoid this from being your life? So we're kind of, the first time they closed down, we ended up getting some gym equipment, and then it's like, all right, and then it happened again, and then it's like, all right. And we were kind of looking at houses at the time, and then it's, based on the way the market was going and stuff, we didn't like it. We were affected the last time things went kind of in that direction, so we started looking at land, and then researching agricultural history and ranch history in state of Arizona. And it's really non-existent if you go to research it. we weren't able to find any mentors or anything. Even with a lot of publicity we never had anybody reach out to us or say anything about other ranches or farms. So, we kind of just, all right, well, started trying to build something. It's mainly this is for our children too. It's a future for our kids. So it gives them options outside of just a traditional college option. It gives them, they're building this with us. So they're, got, blood, sweat, and tears involved in this. So when they're 18, they already have their own business that's running, as opposed to having to go get, $60,000 to $100,000 worth of debt in college and then come out and make $30,000, $35,000 a year. We all know the cycle that we get put through. So we're kind of trying to break that cycle. We're trying to break the cycle of not having minorities and farming and ranching, and just kind of trying to change things to where we feel the future is going, the direction is going. Definitely be more, people out here growing food, raising meat, and, creating additional options to the food supply chain that we're currently dealing with, because that one's kind of on the rocks right now. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, so, because you mentioned, you touched a lot on basically building generational wealth. And as a Black couple, did you both know that there wasn't even any Black, farmers and ranchers in Arizona? Were you aware of that before?
No. I was just doing my regular thing until everything shifted on me. So it took an opportunity to view it, and we looked at it and said, what do we want to do? Because it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. And, obviously here we are, has not stopped. So.
And then we were talking about it the other day, and it's like the levels of how deep it goes for not just what we're doing, but where we came from. It's like, it's so crazy because we realized Stu is from Oakland, and then I'm from Northern California as well. But we both have ridden horses, and it's like, we realize a lot of people haven't, you know what I mean? A lot of people haven't ridden a horse, and out of everything we have on the ranch, we have alpacas, cows, sheep, goats, turkeys, pigs, chickens, ducks. We don't have horses though, and it's like definitely something we want to do on the ranch and have access for people to do as well, because it's like when people come here, they have not experienced a Black ranch, you know what I mean? Or even just seeing somebody ranching or farming who looks like them. And even when I was growing up, I was around agriculture, but nobody of minority other than the farm workers. Do you know what I mean? And so it's a whole different identity. And then getting, that's what we were talking about, because he's from Oakland. So he got to see Black leaders. You know what I mean? He got to see that nothing's impossible. You know what I mean? Because you could see prominent people in every position. And then we realized out here, that's not as common, in Arizona and in Phoenix. And I've had friends who had their kids visit from back east, and they're like, where's all the rich Black people? Because, and they go around downtown Phoenix and they don't see anybody, you don't see them driving in the nice cars and all that kind of stuff. And then it's also, when you go to the farms, you only see white farms, and then those were who owned Gilbert, those are who owned everything. So, but that generational wealth is gone. It's just gone. People don't have that, let alone the idea, the concept of going back to the land. We didn't have that until last year, so it's just the levels. It's crazy. So it's like, we talk to so many different people and we work with so many different people who are at different levels too, and it's like opening them up to different thought processes or ideas. It's really crazy. It's really good though. It's good, and it's powerful.
And when did you realize like you're actually history figures right now? Like you both, no, seriously, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that sometimes we don't realize the magnitude of what we're doing, like everything that we're doing in this pandemic, like starting something in a pandemic, especially being a Black people or a person of color, like it's historical when you decide to take up space in these white-owned spaces, right? So you decided to take up space and to be the first Black ranches farm in Arizona, like that's such a big deal, So when did you notice like, oh my God, we're actually doing something that is like, we didn't even know that it's historical?
Well, So it hit me when we first started, and my kids, they do this online program for school, and they were asking, because we were looking up about the history of Black farmers, and then we couldn't find anything, and they were like, "Mom, are we going to be in one of these books now?" You
Wow.
know, and it's just like, I was thinking about it and I'm like, oh wow, you know, and then the levels go so much deeper because we're in a lot more Black farming groups and things like that. So I'm looking up processing centers, distribution networks, just different things for the USDA, for certifications. And I'm asking, does anybody have a USDA certification to process meat? And I
Mm,
didn't get any responses. You know what I mean? And it's like, are there any, you know, it's like, just because there's 1.5% or 1.8, whatever the percentage are, it's like, just because we can exist or people can exist in this space doesn't mean we're at the same caliber, same level, but we have to start somewhere, you know, to get on the board. And that's why that's why we're doing what we're doing, you know, and
mm,
like collective and sharing, and the way that we have outreach. But the levels of being historic, because if we do get this USDA certification, you know what I mean? It's like, that's
mm,
huge. If we do get these distribution networks, not if, but when, you know, going across the country, like these would be independent. You know what I mean? For
mm,
yourself, not relying on other people, and then working with other Black farms to get this food to people. It's like, it's just really powerful, because when you can see all these systems weren't built for you, and then
mm,
all of these systems don't work, you know. So it's like,
mhm.
how can you ever have success if you don't try to build something different, you know?
Wow. And so it seems like you also run into a lot of obstacles, you
Oh,
know, 'cause you just touched on, getting that certification with the USDA.
yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what that even looks like? Because I have no knowledge of that.
Ah,
So what is that process like, so more
yeah.
people are aware of the obstacles?
I mean, as far as the process, we're still learning this stuff. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mm,
so what is it? 3 days from now, have been out here for 1 year. When we came out here,
congratulations.
Thank
thank
you.
you. When we came out here, we were with bare dirt,
Mm,
nothing. So everything that we have up, we built, ourselves. Uh, we came up to roughly about 100, anywhere from 150 to 200 animals on the farm, ranch, whatnot. Um,
At a time, yeah.
so, as far as the biggest obstacles is obviously the finances, because we don't have the money to just go and say, hey, build this, bring a certification, and just get it all together. So we're learning the process. We're having to budget it. We're trying to figure out, plan it, and see everything we need while we try to raise money for it. So, I mean, we're learning a lot. It's just like, you just have to have like the USDA certified person there when you're doing the meats. So there's things that we're learning, and difference between in-state versus
mm,
USDA, how you have to do it. So if you're going to ship across state lines, it has to be USDA certified. So it's a lot to it in order to be able to be commercial, so to say.
Mhm.
mm,
So
Mhm.
that's kind of what we're learning about, and like all the procedures that we need to do in order to get the certification.
Yes, because it's a lot of planning. It's a
mm.
lot of planning. So like, they even have grants just to plan
Oh,
something like
wow.
this. Yeah, so it's a big process, but it's a good process because we're trying to not go into so much debt, you know, and that's why, like, the donations and things we've received help a lot, because in the year we've got almost $10,000 in donations, and we
Wow.
built this ranch from with that. So we've been able to juggle and shuffle and keep on going, you know. But we're gonna do different things to help raise money for feed until we get fully sustainable. We're gonna be doing different fundraisers for like trees and things like that to expand our production. But um, then we're also like beta testing right now our meat, and we've sold our duck eggs. So it's a lot of different areas of growth process. But with the USDA and anybody looking to do this, the grants don't cover land, animals, or equipment. No, like no grant is going to cover that. No federal grant is going to cover that. And then
Mm,
any equipment, if you ever did get awarded and want to buy it over $5,000, the government still owns it. So people don't realize that too. And I actually was a grant reviewer for a USDA grant that just happened, and I hear it when I'm listening to grant seminars and things like that. They're like, we need more people of color to review these grants because they're the ones who choose to approve other people of color, you know, for these processes. And it was a really great process. I really liked it. They compensate you if you do grant reviews. So I really recommend anybody to sign up for these things. But it's really eye-opening because the levels that we have to go through to expand. Do you know what I mean? To get ahead, to keep ahead. Getting involved. I would tell anybody get involved, because it's like, if you want to do this, you have to just start, because no one's going to do it for you. Nobody is going to do it for you. They think, oh, because there's no Black farms, you're going to get all this money. Nope. You know what I mean? Nope. It's like, there's a reason why they never made it easy for anybody, and they're not going to start now. You know, so it's and then the more you get involved, like Stu and I have signed up for several boards right now. So we're getting more involved with the community, getting on boards so we can try to help grow in the community and have a say, hopefully, about what's going on. And then getting involved with other organizations, because that's super important, because we can't do anything by ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, together is
snaps.
You know? And then building each other up. Like, that's why I'm always posting about other people's stuff. It's just
me too.
You know, it's just like
seriously, we gotta help each other out.
Yes.
And people don't understand that, you know what I mean? Because it's like, there's such a power in, especially as Black people, like, you know, I care about other like groups as well, but for me, my biggest focus is Black folks, because again, like we're fighting so much when it comes to generational wealth, right? And we've been conditioned to believe that we're against each other, like helping each other is a bad thing, right? So there can only be certain Black people in these spaces, and it's like, no, like, what happens if we all work together? What happens if we really just take our resources, right? I don't know much about agriculture. Like, I actually failed my agriculture class in high school and I hated it. But, you know, like, I feel like there's so much that we can learn in terms of just like building generational wealth and land and owning our own things. So I really do believe that in the power of sharing our resources. And, you know, even if it just means you reposting something, like, it doesn't take out of your day. Like, it is, I know some of y'all are so concerned about aesthetics and algorithms, but like, honestly, just reposting somebody's stuff, like, and tagging that person's stuff, like, there's so much power in that. And I'm big on that. So I'm very big on like, yo, tag that person's stuff, tag that person's brand, because you're helping someone, you know?
And especially when you said during the pandemic, anybody who's about anything right now, I am supportive. Anybody, you know what I mean? Because it's like, this is not the time to just do nothing. Like, this is the time when like real change is happening, you know? So along with the bad, there's a lot of good going on, and real changes that were never possible before. You know, getting into the food and agriculture is something that wasn't really possible before, but it's like through COVID, it's like just going through the roof, and this big change is happening. So this is the best time to get into it, you know? And it's like, what's it called? Lifting each other up. So what we're doing is we're trying to get access and build an educational food hub so we can make like equipment available to people. And we've helped people get land on our street. You know, we've helped like 3 different Black households get land on our street. And then it's like, if they have are producing and have access to commercial equipment, then their food can go around the world. Do you know what I mean? So then how hard is that for you to be able to produce, oh, your lemonade is now going to be available because now you have access to this equipment, you know? So it's like thinking outside the box. We need more people to do that, you know, or be supportive of that. So that's why we're also doing a support network for minorities in the Southwest, you know, and we've linked up with farms from like California through Texas and even more states on the South to make their food available, because it's just, well, in the future, we're all building. You know, because we have to start somewhere. What are you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, it's just also important, and like, it's really good when you repost other people's things, because as Black people, we are in a box in regards to the careers and the businesses we start. We're very limited, so to say. There's a ton of things out there that people do and make money, make careers, are very sustainable in life, that we have no representation in. So if we take food, for instance, there's nothing more important in the world outside of air and love and whatnot than food. And we're 1% of that. we're 12% of this population, but what 1% of that. But then if you take like professional sports, like 90%. So our percentages are off, and they're dedicated into only, you know, the lottery positions, so to say. You know what I mean? We get the big positions so that it's viewed as diversity, but that's not diversity. Diversity is when you got, you know, 12% Starbucks owners are Black, 12% McDonald's owners are Black, because we're 12% of the population. Then we have representation of where we stand, as opposed to none, 90, none, you know, 80. We get to, you know, the positions that are, you know, fun, entertaining, or whatnot. But, you know, the groundwork, the stuff that's out there, all those other businesses we spend all our money with that we don't even bother to look into. There's money there. There's so many opportunities there would allow us to grow, because when those opportunities come up, we're still standing in there in the rat race. I mean, how many people are going to be asking us? We know the answer to that. So, I mean, like, everybody's goal through their whole life is to chase these things in our communities, and it's not dedicated to learning a different industry. That there's a lot of opportunity, and it's outside the box. You know, those are the things that I feel personally are what will make a change, a true change, not just, you know what I mean, a conversation. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, none of us really come to the land. It's like, you're crazy if you come to the land.
I want to come. I want to take
well, I'm saying to go live. Build your life, live there, get away from the city, get all the things we're used to. You know what I mean? It's like hunting, fishing, hiking. These are not Black conversations. There are Black people who do it, but these aren't Black conversations.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you why. Ranching and being in that situation isn't. I mean, look how we basically ran from it. We ran from it. Population-wise, we've always been driven into the cities, the big cities, because that's where we could be utilized best, and that's where they'll give us work. So, I mean, you know, the whole history of how it is, you know, basically why all the ghettos are outside the downtowns, because, you know, all of the richer people were downtown, and we had to live on the outskirts. As they want to grow, they went on the outside of it so they could have more land space and be away. And in today's society, we're actually dealing with the reverse of that, because now people want to have one child instead of having full families. So if you got one child, why do you need land? Why do you need a 4 or 5 bedroom house? Let's go back downtown. Then you got what is it?
Gentrification.
Yeah. I'm thinking regeneration. You got gentrification. You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden there's a brewery over there. Then there's, you know what I mean, the coffee shop. And all of a sudden the prices of property go up. And all this horrible property historically is prime real estate now again. And then everybody who's in the city because of that now has to go into those suburbs that we just weren't allowed in before. But now we got to go over there because of the cost over here, because they want to come back over here now. So, I mean, we get stuck in these positions where we're not all over the place. We're stuck in cities and getting maneuvered pretty much, as opposed to breaking that cycle and getting away from that situation and go to land, go do something different. You know what I mean? And it's like, if nobody in our TV shows and our music and everything we see, we don't see ourselves there. For instance, we had a sailboat.
A sailboat?
A sailboat.
Okay, what is that?
What's a sailboat? With the sails that you put in the water? In the ocean?
A sailboat, to buy a boat.
That's my point. See, I said I got a sailboat, and the last thing you thought about is exactly what you know is a sailboat. He didn't have no sailboat. What are you talking about? See, these are things we don't do. I'm the only one over there trying to get on the marina. I'm the only one, and I see the discrimination on it. We're known to be scared of water, but yet historically we were going across the ocean and doing all these things in biblical times. So, but now we're scared of water.
And like locked out of marinas.
And there's a whole nother world of maritime laws and everything that we have no exposure to. So there's so many things that we don't do that are in the world because we're basically locked out. We don't choose what our programming is on TV. We're given a script and our people do what they told. So we don't get those options because they're never going to put it there. Why would they tell us to go to the ocean? You are free there. You got freedom. You can go up. There's a whole nother level of. Why would they tell us that when they put us over in one position and they're running that for us? So, I mean, us stepping outside the box and being independent, free thinkers and getting outside of everything that we're told. Stop watching TV. Stop watching the movies.
I listen to podcasts though.
I mean,
Kumo.
I'm just saying,
Yes.
Go develop your own thought. Don't get an opinion about somebody else's thought. Develop your own thought. Go figure out what you want, not what you see. Because we get it shoved down our throats too much. We don't really have an opportunity to think for ourselves.
Wow.
We pick one of the 3-4 options that are showed to us on TV because you watch 4 shows. They gave you a few different options. Then they told you over here what you're supposed to do. And what are you really thinking for yourself?
Yeah, no. Facts. Snaps. No, for real. Because I feel like, and that's one of the reasons why I started my podcast, because I was like, yo, like some Black people, because I've been exposed to certain things that most Black people have not been exposed to. And I understand like the privilege that I carry with the exposure of things that I've been exposed to, you know, but that's because I wanted to learn. I like put myself in positions to learn about, you know, and learn about infrastructure and learning about social justice, learning about how me as a Black person in this country, right? Like this country is against us, period. And if you don't understand that power, they will continue to oppress us. So for me, I've intentionally put myself in spaces to continue to learn. And, you know, even bringing you on here, there's a purpose, there's intention to why I brought you both on here, because I feel like people need to, like you said about how there's this narrative of Black folks of just like being athletes or, you know, like minimizing us to one thing. And it's like, no, there's so much that we can do as Black people, right? I'm a Black immigrant. Some Black African-Americans don't even know what immigration means, you know, and it's like, there's that, like, there's lack of awareness, but it's not our fault though. It's the system, and the system has literally oppressed us and hidden these things from us. And it's like, the more we keep like, you know, running into other Black folks, because Black people are so diverse, we're not all the same, right? There's rich Black folks who literally got businesses. And when I went to the East Coast in New York and Harlem, I see all these Black people with businesses. And, you know, I've lived in Arizona for the past of like from my childhood to now, and you don't see that, you know, it's like I have to type in Black owned businesses in Arizona.
Right.
And see which ones are still open. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, a lot of that too is, remember, all right, so where are Black people most heavily populated? In the most historic places. Because we never left. We never left. That's why Chicago, 30%. New York, 25% Black. California, higher numbers. Arizona, 5%. So if 5% of the population is Black, you're definitely not going to see 2.5% of that population doing really good, because that's not how our statistics work in this country. That's why in New York and California, you'll always see it. It's them like, yeah, there's plenty of them. There's not plenty of us doing it. You go into a particular place in a particular controlled setting, and you'll see high numbers. When you go outside that setting, you see nothing. You know what I mean? Get on the highway, leave the city, go to the city outside. You're not seeing too many Black people. In the South, you can, because that's kind of, like I say, we stay where it's historic. We've never went up to Iowa and just got, oh, there's 13%, 15% Black people in Iowa.
I mean, let alone the fact that they lie about history all the time, and they keep things, you know what I mean, from you, and the same things in your forefront, the same holidays in your forefront, the same one person in your forefront. You know what I mean? Like you don't hear about like all these great Buffalo Soldier stories. You know what I mean? Or just anything. I don't know one Black homesteader. I don't know anybody in history. You know, like, and then
so speaking on that, I mean, as Americans, we never hear about the Black Hispanic history. That's right here. Like I live 10 minutes. I go down the street before I make a right to the Walmart, I look at the border crossing, and there's Black history right there. Come on, I mean, it's not talked about. It's like the guy who the
There was
guy
a
who
black president in
liberated
Mexico.
the guy who liberated the free, supposedly liberated all the slaves in the Americas first, was a guy named Yang.
Yeah.
Down in Central America, in that area, Hispanic. You know what I mean?
He's not Hispanic. He was black.
It was, you know, he's black, but dealing with Hispanics, the black Hispanic history. Like we're all over. We're all over. We're populating Brazil. Only place we don't populate on this continent heavily, not heavily, but just outside of here, down low Brazil, there's a lot. We're in Mexico, Canada, not that many.
Well, I mean,
but it's cold up there. You know what I mean? The weather's different. We're not like it's snowy, so we stay more towards the equator.
But I think
natural environments.
If you're just gonna keep following the regular programming, are you just gonna listen to people say that you're great, or are you gonna actually like, you know what I mean, do something? Because they're saying that you're great while you're still being suppressed and nothing's changing. You know what I mean? If any of these systems was working, it would have worked by now. You know, so it's like you think that this system's gonna just tell you that you're great and build this great society for you. You know what I mean? They're just gonna keep you in the same place and use new flashy things to get you over there. You know, it's like we have to realize our greatness and make it.
And how did you? Oh, go ahead, James.
I would say I believe we just need an alternative system.
Okay.
I don't like to say an alternative. I mean, there's a current system. It's if you repair it, it's never going to be repaired for us. So, and from our standpoint, it's unrepairable, and we need an alternative one that helps us. That's why right now, the situation we're in is for nobody's in quite so long. Family, grandparents, anything have seen a reset of the food market. That means everybody has an opportunity to come in the food market. So as they chop down Tyson, Foster Farms, and all these places, and they're decentralizing the system as they're kind of directing to, that means everybody can go into the food industry. Nobody was ever allowed in there. 90% of the food that you see comes from 10%, more likely 5% of the farms and ranches out here. So one of those shuts down, guess what happens to your grocery store?
We ain't got food.
Exactly. So the decentralization of that makes it so that local foods and there's more opportunities and options. That's the alternative system. That's why we want to, in a sense, recruit and get other minorities and socially disadvantaged people to get involved. Because as a network, we can be large.
And we have the illusion of choice right now. But it's literally 4 companies that make up 90% of the food. 4 companies.
You know what I mean? White owned.
Oh yeah, they're white owned. But then it's like if they want to change it, like we're the only country I think who takes glyphosate in the food. You know what I mean? Like England and all them, they don't allow Roundup on their food, which causes cancer and all this stuff. You know, but our country allows it. We export food, and then if they don't want it, we will say no, we don't want it back because we don't like the quality of food that we just shipped to them. You know, like it's just crazy the things that we allow on ourselves, and then the deeper and deeper you look into it, it just keeps blowing your mind, like the other stuff we talked about.
So I mean, she hates when I talk about this, but I don't know if you know the direction they're trying to take us as far as food is concerned. Basically, so they want all of us to really have lab-based meats. So they have this 3D printed chicken, right, that they're gonna have you eating soon, where they smush up the chicken. And then they shoot it out with a 3D printer in the shape of an actual chicken, take a laser beam and heat it up for you, and that's chicken. So, I mean, how can you actually have a chicken breast when it's all mashed up?
Wow.
It's like,
and being from fitness, unprocessed food, a lot of people are plant-based right now, and they're saying like, oh, only eat meat a few days. It's the wording is so tricky because it's like whole foods are what you need. Do you know what I mean? So of course you need plants and things like that, but it's like the least processed, the better everything is for you. You know, especially with the meat too. And it's like, I don't like that people say plant-based and they're including this ultra processed meat because they say, oh, this is not real meat. This is good. You know what I mean? Because it's plant-based.
So, like Impossible, Beyond, these new meats, the technology that's coming out with the new meats. I mean, all proteins are not made the same. So any vegan protein is not a complete protein. Only complete proteins come from animals. So you're not getting the same quality of protein. And it's like you're getting a lot of other things, like soy products, they're not good like that. It's not good to take in heavy soy and all these other things that are used to create these proteins. Like, how are you creating protein out of all of these things?
And we're so silly because we won't even look at our history, how our ancestors ate. You know what I mean? And then we're just like, oh, assume that everyone was vegan for some reason, you know, and that was like the healthiest thing to be. But regardless, because, you know, we're trying to promote meat, you know, but once you start getting into fitness and health really seriously, and not just what the mainstream throws out there, like don't eat for 3 days, you know, like that kind of stuff. Like when you start seeing, oh wow, meat is the most nutrient dense and healthy thing that I can actually eat, you know, and you get more filled, you build more muscle, you know. It's not like you eat it and then you're hungry 5 seconds later, you know. It's like it's a hard leap for people to take, though.
And then imagine this. All right, so currently I think it's like 10% of the food in the grocery store is not processed. So if I replace your meat, which is going to be the stuff that's not processed, the meat and the vegetables, if I take the meat and then I make that process, and then I take the vegetables, I make that GMO, what do you have that's real in the grocery store?
Nothing really.
And that's your diet. That's what you're going to eat. That's what you're going to survive off of. If you have kids, when you have kids, that's what they're going to be eating. The grandkids, everybody, just straight lab-based meat. So like Colorado and what is it, Oregon, they're trying to pass laws where you can't kill your livestock for food. But guess what? There's somebody else out there that has a lot of money invested in these other chickens.
The laser chicken.
So it kind of correlates, just like everything else in our society today. It goes hand in hand. So when you see a movement, of a vegan movement, for say, everybody do it. You should do it. You should do it. Plant-based. Oh, and then all of a sudden it's the climate change. Oh, we need to do that too. Your health, you need to do that too. But then there's this guy making a lot of money. He needs that done. You know what I mean? And why the direction is very obvious if you just look at it. These diets are not healthy. If you look at what happens to these people over time, they're having to go do things. And this whole process is people coming back from vegan diets. But yet everybody's supposed to go vegan.
Well, and then you mentioned that you were an immigrant here, and you know Phoenix has a high immigrant population. And a lot of them, they know not to go to the grocery store. See, this is like new to me. I didn't realize this until a year ago. But they know not to go to the grocery store because they know that food's not good. You know, and it's like they look for farmers to get their goat meat from them, you know, or to slaughter it themselves and things like that, because that's what they would do back home, you know, where people didn't have all the cancer rates and stuff like that we have here, you know, and at least they allow that to hold dear to them because they know food is important, you know. So that's another reason why we wanted to stick to the goat meat as well, because it's like one of the most common meats eaten around the world. But
and then also it's amazing how disconnected you actually are with your food.
Can you tap into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so if you came down here and I put a chicken in your hand and said, go get dinner, that chicken's live though. So you see what I'm saying? Now you gotta go break your chicken down real quick. The same chicken you've been feeding, you gotta go break this chicken down, you know, clean it out, and then go cook it.
Actually, when I grew up in my country, we would literally, like in the backyard.
See, you're not
chop up the chicken. And I'm sorry, my vegan friends. I know y'all are probably like, oh my God, please bear with us, okay?
Tell me not to say nothing.
No, but we have vegan friends and vegan farms in our network. You know what I mean? So it's like we support people's choices. Like,
yes.
And our whole network is based around building up the individual, which I think people don't want to do. They want people underneath them. You know? And that's too much work. I don't want to work. I don't want anybody underneath me. You know what I mean? I want you to be trained, to be fully sustainable. What do you want to do with your farm? And then I'll try to help you get there. You know, like what is it that you want to do? An orchard? Cool. That's great. You want to do some pigs? I'll let you know. You know what I mean? Any route you want to take, because it's too much work. We can't do anything for anybody who doesn't want to do it for themselves. You know?
Yeah.
You know.
And
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was saying the whole point I was telling about the vegan diet is that's just what they're pushing to us. That's what they're forcing us into. That's what they're saying everybody should be doing. It needs to be more plant-based. They dropped the level of protein that you should take into like 50 grams of protein a day. All right. So from a bodybuilding standpoint, they'll tell you to take in anywhere from 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per pound you weigh.
So like give an example.
So if you weigh 100 pounds, that's 200, 150 to 200 grams of protein you should be taking in for full muscle development. But they're recommended to this point 50 grams a day for me at 210 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because then guess what? Everything else will go to the GMO vegetables and all the other stuff. And then there's no more beef. There's no more pork. Like California's about to have it horrible in a second. I think they're going to lose like 90% of the pork it's imported into that they utilize because of the change of laws that they have. So if you take away pork, what does that mean for breakfast?
That's true.
Nobody does turkey. Nobody does chicken. I mean, that's cool. I'm going to be healthy today. I'm going to get some turkey. No, it's pork. Breakfast is pork.
Yeah.
Ham, bacon, sausage, Canadian bacon.
Yes, Canadian bacon.
Breakfast. And so think about what's going to happen to all those restaurants. What if you sell barbecue? Ribs, hot links, sausages, pulled pork sandwiches. All those items are off the menu now. And then that just further continues on with what we're watching. And it's all basically made off of decisions. And it's not necessarily just the factual things that are happening to make these things. No, they're decisions because of a direction we have to go into. So now, better than any time, is the wisest time to change directions and go against the grain for us. So while everything goes down, we have opportunities to move up in the future. So we can replace ourselves if we're smart. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a lot of opportunities right here, right now. You have a choice how you handle the pandemic. With every crisis, there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
You can sit back and get folded, or you can open your eyes and go to where the opportunities are and change everything. Everybody has a chance to change their life and their position right now. Everybody does. But it's what you do with it. If you stay doing exactly what you were doing and what you planned before this happened, you're not in the same world no more. You're not planning for the same world. You know what I mean? That world is no longer in existence. It's a different world now. So look at the world that's coming to you and plan for that. And there's opportunities for everybody to change. Our whole culture can change. We don't have to be who we are. Right now, the door is open. It doesn't look like it or doesn't sound like it, but there's doors that are open right now that have never been open for us. But if we keep our eyes closed and keep doing that same plan, waiting for them to say, okay, we can go back to normal now, and going back to the same idea and the same plan, we're gonna stay in the same position.
But like Kumo, like I feel like you get it because you're doing something different and you are open and honest about your struggles. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. And it's like as people, as minorities, opening up to different livelihoods is like hard. Change is hard. You know, it's like and getting into the abundant mindset is hard for people because of the traumas, because of the systems, because of what we fall back to, because of family, because of whatever it is. So there's all those gates you have to break through, you know what I mean? To see the possibilities through the grim, you know what I mean, future that people are seeing all the time. So it's even for us, like I was in a meeting with some people and I was like, I started crying because we got some cattle gates. They're like $15 brand new, but we've never had anything brand new. You know what I mean? Like everything on the ranch was like used, or we broke it down, or like or it was free, and just buying something new was just like, it was just out of this world to us at that time. But it's like breaking free from those mindsets. Like I only deserve the worst. You know what I mean? Or I only deserve what can, and I know that's not a positive mindset, but we're so used to getting leftovers all the time. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, even though we're in a positive, really great position, we're still down here right now. But if you don't go here, you're never going to get here. You know? So it's like,
I mean, there's two ways of that. I mean, as far as what we're doing, it's like, that's what's available to us, and we're going to make it work.
Yes.
Mhm.
We out here on a mission, and the mission is to succeed. So whatever we got to do is what we have to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, but on the same note, you got to really look left and right and see what reality is and what do you really need.
Yeah.
You know, where's your point where you can go be like, all right, what do I really need to live?
And that's why I think breaking down those gates and those barriers in your mind comes through, you know, because it's just like, do I need this? Do I, you know, it's like the consumption that we feel like is culture.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And the safety.
Yeah, and I think because to be honest, this pandemic is very, for me mentally, it's really taken a toll on me mentally. You know, even with just like the uprisings that happened last summer, I was actually diagnosed with PTSD because of seeing Black people continuously die. And
Yes.
I'm an activist, so I've been to these protests. I've been in city council meetings, sat in hours and hours of city council meeting, talking to elected officials. So it's like, you know, to be diagnosed with PTSD, I had to first be honest about how I got here and understanding like it's not my fault that, you know, there's racial trauma. And it's just a different type of, I feel like, especially when you're a Black person, it's even harder. You know, for me personally, I feel like it's even harder seeing what's going on. And I understand how it can be discouraging to even pursue dreams and start something, because it's like you have all these, literally a society that tells us that we're not supposed to be at the top, that tells us that we can't achieve these things. And to be honest, sometimes too with my podcast, I wrestle with this. I wrestle with this idea because there's already other podcasters out there, you know? And sometimes I struggle with this, like, oh my God, like, what do I have to say? Like, there's already a dope podcast out there, like, you know, but I believe in what I am doing, and I feel passionate, and I feel when I touch this mic, when I have these conversations, it does something to my heart. So I just hope that, you know, anyone out there listening, because it is very, very challenging, you know, and I was going to ask you both, how do you battle with the days where it's really hard, where it's, you know, you either didn't get new equipment or you're using literally all that you have? How do you combat those moments?
I mean, honestly, God, I'm here because God told us that this is what we need to do. You know, we see this, we realize all these things. When we see food shortages, we don't want to sit up here and have situations where there's no food available, and we don't want no one else to go through. So, you know, there's a ton of things we're doing to try to actually help people, help make a change, not, you know, well, I say alternative changes, do something different, you know what I mean? So it's faith. I mean, I'm like, if you're doing what you were told to do, not what you felt like doing, okay? I always feel like doing other things. You know what I mean? I was looking at cars and certain things, and I'm not looking at that anymore because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And when you do what you're supposed to be doing, if you do what your life mission is, things work out. You don't fail when you're doing the right thing. It's when you're pushing for something that you want, not that you necessarily shouldn't be doing. Or should be doing.
That's how I know it's like not our will, because that's how we're successful.
Yeah, I mean,
because if it was something I wanted, then we would not be successful. You know,
if I'm pushing to be a millionaire, okay, and that's my whole thing. Yeah, I'm gonna have so many problems because why do I need to be a millionaire? There's no need for that. Now it's a self-desire, just something I want, as opposed to when you're out there and you gotta go get some food on the table and you're going like, I gotta get this food, I'm gonna do it, and it's what you have to do. It comes. It will eventually come because you're gonna put forth the effort and it's gonna come. You know what I mean? It's when you're doing something that's a necessity and something that you're meant to be doing, these things fall into place.
We'll have it where
and
we
the
don't
struggles, the struggles are more down, how are you gonna take this? How are you gonna take a negative action in your life? That's the key. I mean, it's like anything else. You know what I mean? You live in your life, go to your job, something happens in your job, how do you take it? You know what I mean? Do you even care about that job? If you don't, are you going to still be stressed about the fact that happened? Or are you going to look at that and be like, you know what? This is my opportunity to go do something different because I knew I shouldn't have been here. It's how you take it. You know what I mean? Negative things happen. but it's all direction. Everything that negative happens negative, any of us. We can sit around and talk about it, but as long as we talk about it, it obviously didn't kill us. And we're still here talking, so we've gotten past it. And you can always get past it. And that's, obstacles are going to be there. And you just got to keep going. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, nothing's ever been perfect. I mean, being told no, not having something. I mean, we've all had that. For me, about 45 years, this happened to me. I've been told no. Haven't had something I wanted or needed necessarily. But out of those years, I've learned they always come.
Yeah.
If you broke, another dollar always comes.
We'll be like, we don't have enough money for hay. Like, everyone's going to starve the whole farm. And then we'll have gotten a donation or something like that. And then we'll be able to go get hay. Or like just random things like that have happened this whole time to like help us push forward and get through it. But I read this one article from the Business Insider where he was saying that the founder of Netflix was reviewing entrepreneurs. And I didn't think I was going to like this article, and I actually did. He was like, if you want to do something, certifications and all this stuff, he's like, they're fine, but just go do it. You know what I mean? He's like, if you want to do anything, just go do it. And he's like, he said, all successful entrepreneurs share these same 3 traits: focus, an ability to triage, and a predisposition for action. And the ability to triage, I had to look it up, and it's like being able to fix multiple things that are going on at the same time. You know what I mean? And then you got to treat what's most important first and prioritize and everything. So it's like, and then we're definitely action people. So no matter what, it's like we might get knocked down for a second, but then we're action oriented. So we got to fix it or do something different, But I definitely cry a lot.
Hey, I love crying too. We love criers. Yes.
Cry a lot. Stu helps me. Our friend Raba helps me a lot. The kids help me. It's like I stress and I go through things, and it's like you said, like about the preconceived notions that we have when we deal with people, the anxiety I get before like talking to somebody, or somebody comes over, or just feeling like we're not this big commercial farm. So it's like, what's the point? Kind of like what you were saying about the podcast. But it's like, I know that if I don't cut through the bullshit and just move on to the next step, we're not going to get anywhere, and nothing's ever going to happen. And we have to do this. So I just have to do it. You know what I mean? And it's not easy at all though.
Yeah. And how do you take care of yourselves, like in terms of, celebrating the small wins? Because I think that's very important. I am very big on that, on just like celebrating the small wins and being like, I'm going to take time. So what are some things that you both do?
It's hard to
celebrate a small win. I mean, we don't celebrate big wins.
We might take a breath.
We don't celebrate. That's a problem.
It is a problem that we have, and it's because it'll be like we wanted this big win, and then we're so focused on the next thing. When we get a small win, big win, we're already focused on the next thing.
I guess it's kind of like it's the high.
Yeah,
it's the high. You want something, and you get the high chasing it. Once you get it, the high is over.
Yeah,
you need another high. So you're chasing something different now. Like, how long are you gonna sit there and enjoy it? It's kind of the mindset of how long am I sit here?
That's what I think.
Supposed to talk about something that's already done. There's other things to be done.
That's why it's hard for me to post on social media too, because I'm like, I want everybody to know how hard we're working and what we're doing, and then I end up posting nothing. So because it's like I want it to be good, and then I only post like when people come over and stuff like that, and I'm not letting them know the community work that we're doing, that we're hauling water for people, you know what I mean, that we're finding livestock and giving them to people, we're rehousing livestock, and like, oh, you want some goats, and I'm gonna find you some goats then, you know what I mean, and it's like putting it out there, and then I got contacted and got people some goats, so it's just like, I don't know. It's definitely a lot of different things that we use to kind of keep moving forward, But Stu's definitely a rock. He's a rock. Working out is wonderful to help you when you can do it all the time, And it's like I haven't been doing it, so that helps a lot too, But
I'll say also remaining calm is important.
Yeah.
So basically, how you initially take something bad is going to determine how long it takes for you to get out the situation. So if something hits you and you're like, oh no, and you just sit up here and think about how bad it is, you could probably lose 2-3 days of dwelling on what happened to you when you probably could have got it figured out in about an hour and started getting into the process of fixing the problem, because you just took it relaxed, you took it calm, and you look back at your experiences. I mean, nothing has to be identical, but everything in life is almost the same.
Yeah. And I think most of us all respond to trauma differently, or like moments where, you know, we either have a setback. Because I know for me, when I have a setback, it takes me, depending on the severity of this setback, it usually takes me like a weeks to get back, because it really does set me back, because I'm a big processor. So I have to like process my feelings.
What's your sign?
I am a Taurus.
Taurus? Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
So like I have to like sit with my emotions, and like, you know, being like, I process out, like my thought process is more like out loud. Like I have to be like, okay, this is what happened. This is what we're feeling right now. Because I think that for me, when I just rush into like moving the next thing, it's like I am doing myself a disservice, because I'm not really sitting with Kumo and being like, ouch, that actually hurt a little bit, you know, so let's come back to that. So that's how I process my my setbacks.
I love that you know your process, because it's like once you know your process, then you can work with it. You know what I mean? And then understand it and move through those emotions. But one of the biggest things that helps me is like meeting with people like you, because like anybody that we've connected with who's like on something or doing something through this pandemic, I love seeing their wins. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh my gosh, your wins are like, I'll keep talking to you, or like the Black Carnivore, like she was one of our first podcasts, you know, or like just different things. Like we keep supporting each other, and then we keep winning, or like we'll DM each other, or just different things, you know. And it's like seeing us all come up through this process, I think is what helps motivate me, you know, rising together.
I love that. And I do just want to ask, how can the community support you? I know you still have your GoFundMe. What are other things that we can do to support you in reaching your goals?
Yeah.
So I mean, like just the GoFundMe, we have different ways of donations. Currently we're beta testing meat, so we're doing lamb and goat. If anybody eats those meat, they can definitely support in that way. They can, you know, bring awareness. Awareness is helpful. Posting about like what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish is definitely helpful as well.
Yeah. Repost. And then we're going to be doing a Patreon for the kids, for an educational channel. So they're going to be doing like all of it with animals and everything. And that's going to be to raise money for our like trees and things like that. So we'll help with the proceeds from that. And then what was I going to say? I know we're going to be updating our GoFundMe so people know about the network and what we're building as far as that's concerned. But we're definitely going to make it a little bit easier for people to donate on a regular basis if they're looking to like, oh yeah, I could donate a bag of feed every month, $20. That would be great. You know what I mean?
So
Stuff like that.
Farm equipment, ranch equipment, those things are helpful. I mean, anything helps.
Yeah, people don't think $10 helps, and it really does.
You know? So I mean,
it does.
We're kind of trying to create a blueprint too for like a micro ranch. So when people are interested, we have a way to give you like the blueprint. So you don't have to go through all of our bumps and bruises and learning things, figuring out, oh, that's how you have to get water. Oh, okay. Oh, that's how you get electricity. It's a lot of things that you just don't know when you get in here. So we want to try to make a situation where city people such as ourselves have an easier transition, because I'm a city boy, always will be, even though I'm out here, you know. But it's not an easy transition, you know. It's not. It's mentally, and then learning to figure out all the stuff you got to do, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of. You know, there's a lot of shortcuts and a lot of things we could tell people about that would just save them a lot. Especially like you're in the middle of the desert, man. Don't bring that tent. Don't bring the tent. It's gonna be
don't bring the tent.
It's gonna fly. We get like 50-mile-an-hour winds out here sometimes.
Oh wow!
I watched the tent get decleated and just fly off like Dorothy's house.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you watched it. It gets pretty wild. So
yeah.
Wow. And I love to ask this question to my guests, since it's both of you. I do want to ask, what do you want first for people to remember about you both as individuals? And where do you see Southwest Black Ranchers Farm going? Like, where do you see this brand and this vision that you have? Where do you see it going?
Okay, so as far as
I know those were like two loaded questions.
what was the first question again? I'm sorry. The first question again?
So the first question is, how do
What
you
about
want people
think
to
about?
remember you? What are some things that you want people to remember about yourselves?
I would say I want people to realize and remember that we're a family with 4 children. She has a master's degree. I got a bachelor's degree. We have sales, fitness backgrounds. I've never even been camping. So if you want to make a change, it's nothing but a decision in this world. Simply put, you have the ability to make a decision and do anything you choose to do. You just have to be able to be willing to make the change. And we want to be an example that you can come out here and do that. You can come out here and have animals, buy a piece of land that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, build it up, and you can live for cheap. Raise your family, have your own food. You don't have to have all these bills. You don't have to have all these things. You know, you can do it. So we want to kind of be at a point, I guess, in the future, to where you can look at us and have a living example right in your face, in your time, in your ear, where you watch somebody's whole world change and they're able to be successful, built a network, brought other people in. I always tell them, we need to make ranching look sexy, not struggles all the time. You know what I mean? Everybody has struggles out here. It's like, if you just show people your problems, who want to go be you? Who want to go do what you're doing if you always just like, it's horrible. I mean, I'm not going. We want to make it so that we get to a point where you can see that it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, we got a gym we're building. We got basketball hoops out here. Every sport equipment we got out here. You know, putting it together. I mean, you got animals. It's all kind of stuff you could do. Sky's the limit, and we want people to be able to see it. We want people to be able to come down and just get an experience. And if we would like for people to do it. We want everybody like you yourself to get out the city. Come get some animals.
I will come.
Live a different life. Because I'm saying, man, look what they're doing out there. You keep sitting in these places, it's going to keep getting tighter and tighter and tighter and worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, we see freedom out here as much as you can have out here.
Yeah.
It's more free here than any city. So, I mean, and we want people who, instead of sitting there like, so if they cut all the jobs, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? So get in a situation where you're prepared for that. Get in a situation where you have an option. Get in a situation where you can take care of yourself without anything or anybody or any store. So when they say, stores are closed for the next 2 days because we have shortages and we got to make sure everything's green, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? You can have land, water, and options and be there living for those 2 or 3 days. Like, all right, well, I guess I ain't going nowhere. Or you can be like, man, what am I going to do? And there's nothing else. If there's no food in the city, there's just no food.
Well, and then where do we see Southwest Black Ranchers going is kind of like we talked about, where we support a bunch of different farmers and ranchers and making their food available to the public. You know what I mean? Making their individual products available to the public. So at first, initially, it'll be going to Tucson and Phoenix because that's interstate or in the state. But then hopefully all the way across the tent, the southern United States, making their fruit, vegetables, products available and commercially ready, giving them the ability to not just go, I'm going to be selling at a farmer's market. My product is all the way across the United States. And then the way that COVID is going, it has to be to the house. You know what I mean? The food has to go directly to people's houses.
Yeah, we're looking for basically farm to table.
Farm to table.
And we want to give a person with 5 goats the ability to sell meat, just as if there was 1,000 goats.
Yeah.
So if you have a big producer that has, to say, making them numbers, 10,000 cows, and we got 1,000 people with 10 cows, we still got the same number.
Yeah.
We still put out the same amount of food. The money was just distributed differently. And there weren't employees, there were owners making the money. And the households make their money. And it's still the same result.
Yeah, that's what the our food hub, we see that in the next like 2 to 3 years, hopefully coming to fruition. So with the planning, getting funding and things like that, but the food hub will make it access to education, training, and then equipment usage. You
And
know,
also, so in an instance where the situation we're dealing with now, so let's say we do have, we distribute and decentralized to where we have all these little producers making the food. If that one company with the 10,000 cows has a problem and they go shut them down, all those animals, all that meat is gone. It's not in the market anymore. If they go shut down one of these people, we still got 999 more.
and it's supplying food for our people, of supplying food that we know where it came from. You know what I mean? Supplying food where we know it's not shot up with all these things that cause disease, you know? So it's, that's our vision for that. We already have, once we get like our hydroponic systems going up, those greenhouses, we already have like a franchise that wants to buy like several produce from us. You know, and this franchise has been asking for like a year. So we're just getting past our animal phase and beta testing that, but that's our next phase, is going into the food production with the plants, you know, with hydroponic food, and then our orchards going. So that's why just funding, you only go as fast as you can have money to go, you know. So that's it. But what I would want people to people to know is, I heard the statistic, and I feel like it's a life-changing statistic. I know it's a lot of numbers we've been talking about, but 90% of the population would not make a change if their life depended on it. So I'm hopefully talking to anybody in the 10. You know what I mean? Hopefully anybody in the 10 wants to listen to your podcast. And then of that 10%, 7% of them would write a letter to their congressman, and that's the only change they would make if they were upset about something. So being an activist, you already go out there because you want to make changes. You know what I mean? You're doing more than writing a letter, you know? And then so the 3%, they would make the change if their life depended on it. So that's how small the number, the world is big, but the world is small, of people that we could even talk to who would be willing to make changes or listen and process these changes. You know what I mean? So I think it's a lot higher in these crowds and circles that we deal with, though. You know what I mean? And that also gives me hope. And seeing my little 4 kids, they inspire everybody that they talk to and see, because they see these 4 kids running this ranch, because they run it.
Wow.
They run it. They take care of the animals. They feed the animals. They fix the animals. And we don't have a well, so they use buckets. You know what I mean? They're hauling buckets around, and it's like it's a thing where we get our inspiration from countries we don't feel like it's bad to be third world. You know what I mean? And it's just like it's whatever you think it is. You know, people can build with adobe here. You can have a mud hut, if that's what you want to call it. So it's kind of like,
I mean, and that whole opinion and mindset that we get put into about third world, and oh no, you couldn't be living like that. Oh, no, you have to have this, this, and this. And there's a bunch of things we don't have to have. And you really realize when you break everything down, get rid of everything, sell everything to go accomplish something, and that when you're starting off, you don't have nothing, you realize I don't need these things. There's so many things I just don't want. I don't want around me, like a TV set. There's so many things I don't want, you know what I mean, now, because they're just so unimportant. They're not relevant. I mean, when you leave all of that stuff, you actually can find yourself just sitting there for quite some time with nothing. No phone, no book, no TV, just yourself. You know, and that's hard. It's not easy to just sit there with yourself in a room. Letting your thoughts be, thinking freely.
Right.
Looking at things like, what is this really like? This is not what it seems like. That's not what I'm being told. And just being able to get away from all of the things that you've been told and just becoming yourself. And learning how to live with yourself. If you can live with yourself in your head, you're doing good.
Yes.
Right? You're doing real good. You know what I mean? You don't need these things. You don't have to go touch the phone. You don't have to call somebody. You don't have to get on. You can just be a child. Like how our mind should be. They should be that free, where they're at the same point of a child's mind, you know, where the child, they just think. That's why they say these random things, because they don't care what you said. That don't sound right. And they go with what they just think, and they think by themselves. And as adults, we should be able to have that ability. We shouldn't have all that stripped from us, to where we so programmed and pushed into so many directions with, you're not doing this, oh no. And the whole thing that kills me is why does everything always have to be better?
What does everything have to be?
Why
what?
does everything always have to be better?
Better.
Yeah, it's always got to be better. Even if you're at the best, it needs to be better. Even if you did great, it needs to be better. What can we do to improve? What can we do to improve? Even if it was exactly how it should be, you're still trying to improve it because we're taught to. And then therefore you can't be free. You'll never be free there when you always got to be better as a person. Even if you're great, you need to be better. You know, getting away from all that, just like I say, getting to yourself, being able to live in your own head, not needing things. I think those are the biggest things that, you can get by making these changes and stripping yourself from those things. There's a lot of value in not having those valuables.
Well, that's yes, it's gonna take some time for some of us, but
hey, I'm not nobody. I mean, I have a personality where if I see something it's a dead end and we gotta go, we gotta get out of here. I'm not going to touch the tip of the dead end. I mean, I'm gonna make a change or I'm gonna do something. I don't have fear. I live my life fearless.
I have it still.
I do too. I have it.
So like, I mean, like for instance, we went to San Diego. People like, you going to San Diego? It's so expensive. How you gonna do it? I'm like, man, there's 30 million people there. What do you mean? How I'm gonna do it? 30 million people did it. There's a ranch. There's plenty of ranches and farms. Food comes from somewhere. We could do it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I know I probably talk too much.
No, thank you both for coming on and just giving us just insight and wisdom. And I hope that this episode causes us all, including you all who are listening today, to think differently, to think outside the box. That's the purpose of this podcast, is for us to think differently. I just got educated on farming and ranchers and Black ranchers. So thank you so much, Rachel and James, for coming on here, because, this work, again, it's like taking us out of the norm of what Black folks are supposed to look like and what we're supposed to be like, right? And I think for me, my biggest takeaway from this is just thinking for myself and, just being with self and the power within ourselves and our ideas and our creativity. So yes, thank you both for coming on. I will be sharing the GoFundMe link and your website. And you mentioned something about earlier, Rachel, on, I forgot what it was, the review, something about the review. What is it called? Where you would sit, the what?
Sharing.
Grant review.
Grant review. Yes. So if you could send me a link to that so I can add it to this description as well, that would be helpful.
For sure. Yeah.
All righty, y'all. Thank you again for coming on. And everyone else, we will see you all next time. Please use the hashtag, hashtag Kumo's Unfiltered Convos if you do share this, just because we're trying to build momentum. So yeah, thank you for tapping in and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.